The mirror reflected fragments of a broken soul. Emma stared at her 19-year-old face, brown hair falling in waves over shoulders that had learned to carry burdens too heavy for her age. The Chicago apartment was silent, except for the distant hum of traffic 17 floors below. She traced the crack in the glass with her fingertip, watching how it divided her reflection into two different people. The door slammed. Heavy footsteps. Emma's spine straightened involuntarily. "Get out here." Margaret's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Emma's stepmother stood in the doorway, designer heels clicking against hardwood. Her blonde hair was pulled back so tight it stretched the skin around her cold blue eyes. Everything about Margaret screamed control, from her pressed suit to the way she held her phone like a weapon. Emma emerged from her room. The living room felt smaller when Margaret was angry, and Margaret was always angry. "Sit." Emma obeyed. She had learned years ago that resistance only made things worse. Margaret remained standing, towering over her like a judge delivering a sentence. "Do you know what you cost me every month?" Margaret's voice was measured. "Dangerous. Food, clothes, this roof over your worthless head." Emma's hands found each other in her lap. She squeezed her fingers until the knuckles went white. "Your father left debts, mountains of them, and then he died, leaving me with his mistakes." Margaret's laugh was hollow. "Including you." The word "you" landed like a slap. Emma had heard variations of this speech for 7 years, ever since the car accident that took her father and left her at Margaret's mercy. But tonight felt different. Tonight, Margaret's anger had weight behind it. Purpose. "I've found a solution." Emma's blood turned to ice water. Margaret pulled out her phone, fingers moving across the screen with practiced efficiency. There are men in this city who appreciate rare things, young things, untouched things. The words hung in the air like poison gas. Emma's lungs refused to work. "I've arranged a private auction. Tonight. You'll bring enough money to clear your father's debts and set Ashley up for college." Margaret's own daughter, Emma's half-sister, who was away at prep school, blissfully unaware of the darkness that lived in their home. "No." The word escaped Emma's lips like a prayer. "You can't." "I can, I will. You belong to me now, and I'll do whatever I want with my property." Emma stood on shaking legs. The room tilted. "I'm not property. I'm not—" "You're nothing." Margaret's voice dropped to a whisper. "You have no family, no friends, no future. No one would even notice if you disappeared tonight." The truth of it hit Emma like a physical blow. She was alone. Completely, utterly alone. Margaret checked her watch. "The car comes in an hour. Shower. Put on the dress I laid out." "And Emma?" She paused at the door. "Don't even think about running. You know what happens to girls who run in this city." The door closed. Emma stood frozen in the empty room, listening to the sound of her own heartbeat. Through the window, Chicago sprawled endlessly in all directions. Millions of lights, millions of people. None of them knew her name. None of them would miss her. She walked to her bedroom like a condemned woman approaching the electric chair. On the bed lay a black dress. Simple, elegant, expensive. The kind of dress a man would want to remove. The shower water scalded her skin, but she couldn't feel it. She scrubbed until her skin was raw, trying to wash away the contamination of Margaret's words. When she looked in the mirror afterward, she barely recognized herself. The dress fit perfectly. Of course it did. Margaret had thought of everything. The car was black, expensive, silent. The driver never looked at her, never spoke. Emma pressed her face against the tinted window and watched the city blur past. They drove through neighborhoods she'd never seen, past buildings that scraped the sky, until finally stopping in front of a mansion that belonged in a different century. Inside, the house breathed money and danger. Men in expensive suits stood in clusters, drinks in hand, speaking in low voices. They looked at her the way people looked at livestock, appraising, calculating, deciding if she was worth the investment. Emma was led to a small room and told to wait. The minutes crawled by like hours. Through the thin walls she could hear voices rising and falling, laughter that made her skin crawl, the clink of glasses and the rustle of money changing hands. When they came for her, she walked into the main room on legs that belonged to someone else. The auction was civilized, polite. The auctioneer spoke in measured tones while Emma stood under bright lights, frozen like a deer in headlights. The bidding started low, rose steadily. Men called out numbers like they were ordering coffee. Emma's vision blurred. Her hearing faded to white noise. She was disappearing piece by piece with every bid. Then silence. A voice from the back of the room cut through the noise like a gunshot. Deep, calm, final. 5 million. The room went dead quiet. Emma's eyes found him in the shadows. He was younger than the others, maybe 35, with dark hair and darker eyes. He wore a black suit that cost more than most people's cars. But it wasn't his money that made the room go silent. It was his presence. The way other men stepped aside when he moved. The way conversations died when he spoke. Going once, going twice. Sold. Emma's knees buckled. Strong hands caught her before she hit the floor. When she looked up, she was staring into the eyes of the man who had just bought her. His face revealed nothing. No satisfaction, no cruelty, nothing at all. "My name is Vincent Romano," he said quietly. "And your life just changed forever." The elevator rose through 43 floors of glass and steel without making a sound. Emma stood pressed against the mirrored wall, watching Vincent Romano's reflection multiply into infinity. He hadn't spoken since they left the mansion. His silence filled the small space like smoke, thick and suffocating. The penthouse doors opened to reveal a world carved from black marble and chrome. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of Chicago that made Emma feel like she was floating above the city. Everything was clean lines and sharp angles. No warmth, no softness, no mercy. Vincent walked to a bar that could have served a small restaurant. Ice clinked against crystal as he poured himself something amber. He didn't offer her anything. She was decoration now, furniture. Objects didn't need drinks. "There are rules here," he said without turning around. His voice echoed off the marble walls. Simple rules easy to follow. Emma's throat felt like sandpaper. "What kind of rules?" "You don't leave without permission. You don't use the phone without permission. You don't speak to anyone without permission." He took a sip of his drink. The liquid caught the light like liquid gold. "Break any rule, and you'll learn why people in this city whisper my name." The threat hung in the air between them. Emma wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hold the pieces together. "Why did you bid on me?" Vincent turned slowly. His dark eyes studied her face like he was memorizing it, or deciding whether to crush it. "Margaret offered me something I needed. A clean slate. Someone with no connections. No family to come looking." He paused. "Someone disposable." The word hit her like a physical blow. Disposable. That's what she was to him. A tool to be used and thrown away. "I have business associates who appreciate company. Young company. Innocent company." His smile was razor thin. "You'll help me entertain them." Emma's stomach dropped to her feet. She understood now. She wasn't just property. She was currency. A gift to be shared with other monsters. "No." The word came out as barely a whisper. Vincent set down his glass with deliberate precision. Each step toward her was measured, controlled, predatory. He stopped close enough that she could smell his cologne. Expensive, masculine, dangerous. "No." He tilted his head like he was studying an interesting insect. "That's not a word you get to use anymore." His hand moved toward her face. Emma flinched backward, but the wall stopped her retreat. His fingers traced the line of her jaw with surgical precision. Not quite gentle, not quite violent. The touch promised both protection and destruction. "You're mine now, Emma. Completely mine. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be for both of us." Tears burned behind her eyes, but she wouldn't let them fall. Not in front of him. Not yet. Vincent's phone buzzed. He answered without taking his eyes off her. "Romano." His voice shifted into something harder, more dangerous. "When? How many?" "I'll be there in 20 minutes. He ended the call and stepped back. The sudden absence of his presence left Emma feeling strangely cold. "Business calls. Mrs. Chen will show you to your room." As if summoned by magic, an elderly Asian woman appeared from the shadows. Her face revealed nothing, but her eyes held something that might have been sympathy. "Rest tonight. Tomorrow, your education begins." Emma followed Mrs. Chen down a hallway lined with photographs of Vincent shaking hands with politicians, judges, business leaders, men who smiled for cameras while blood stained their hands. Mrs. Chen moved like a ghost, her soft shoes silent on the marble floor. The room was beautiful in the way that expensive prisons were beautiful. A king-sized bed dominated the space, covered in silk sheets the color of midnight. The windows were floor to ceiling, but Emma noticed they didn't open. Of course they didn't. Bathroom there, closet there, intercom there. Mrs. Chen's English was perfect, but accented. You need something, you ask. You try to leave. Mr. Romano knows immediately. Emma wanted to ask how. Were there cameras? Sensors? Guards? But Mrs. Chen's expression suggested some questions were better left unasked. He is not cruel, man, Mrs. Chen said softly, her hand on the door handle. But he is dangerous, man. Very dangerous. You remember this? You live longer. The door closed with a whisper. Emma was alone. She explored her cage with the desperate thoroughness of a trapped animal. The bathroom was marble and gold, with a shower that could fit 6 people. The closet held clothes in her exact size. Designer dresses, silk underwear, shoes that cost more than most people's rent. All in shades of black, white, and blood red. Vincent's colors. The intercom crackled to life without warning. Emma, Vincent's voice filled the room like smoke. Are you settling in? She stared at the small device, realizing he could watch her. Listen to her. Control her even when he wasn't in the room. Answer me. Yes. Her voice cracked on the single syllable. Good. Sleep well. Tomorrow, we begin your training. The intercom went silent. Emma collapsed onto the bed, finally allowing the tears to fall. She cried for her father, dead 3 years now. For the life she'd lost. For the innocence that Margaret had sold to the highest bidder. Outside the windows, Chicago glittered like a field of stars. Somewhere in that vast city, Margaret was probably celebrating. Counting her money, planning Ashley's future with the blood money she'd earned by destroying Emma's. Emma pressed her palm against the cool glass and wondered if Vincent was right. Was she truly disposable? Would anyone even notice if she disappeared? The thought terrified her because she couldn't answer it. She had no friends, no family who cared, no one who would ask questions if she never came home. The bed was too soft, the sheets too fine. Everything smelled like money and danger. Emma lay awake listening to the city breathe below her, trying to plan an escape that seemed impossible. Vincent Romano owned judges and politicians. He had eyes and ears throughout the city. Where could she run that he wouldn't find her? Near dawn, exhaustion finally claimed her. She dreamed of her father reading her bedtime stories, his voice gentle and warm. She dreamed of a time when she felt safe, when someone loved her enough to protect her. She woke to Mrs. Chen shaking her shoulder gently. Sunlight streamed through the windows, painting everything in shades of gold and shadow. Time to get ready. Mr. Romano expects you for breakfast in 1 hour. Emma's stomach clenched with fear and hunger. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Mrs. Chen laid out clothes on the bed, a simple black dress that somehow managed to be both modest and seductive. He likes punctuality, Mrs. Chen warned. Do not be late. The shower water was hot enough to scald, but Emma welcomed the pain. It reminded her that she was still alive, still human, still capable of feeling something other than terror. As she dressed, Emma caught sight of herself in the mirror. The girl looking back was a stranger, polished, expensive, beautiful in the way that weapons were beautiful, all sharp edges and deadly purpose. She had become exactly what Vincent Romano wanted her to be. The dining room stretched like a cathedral of black marble and crystal. Vincent sat at the head of a table that could seat 20, reading something on his tablet while steam rose from his untouched coffee. He didn't look up when Emma entered, didn't acknowledge her presence in any way. She might have been a shadow for all the attention he paid her. Mrs. Chen guided Emma to a chair halfway down the table. The distance between them felt deliberate, calculated, a reminder of hierarchy. Emma's place was not beside him, but below him. Eat. Vincent's voice cut through the silence without his eyes leaving the screen. The plate before Emma held food that belonged in a 5-star restaurant. Eggs Benedict, with truffle shavings. Fresh fruit arranged like art. Toast cut into perfect triangles. Her stomach cramped with hunger, but her throat refused to work. Everything felt like ash in her mouth. Vincent's phone buzzed. He answered immediately. What do you mean they found the warehouse? I told you to clean it. His voice dropped to something that made Emma's blood freeze. No. No excuses. You fix this, or I fix you. Permanently. He ended the call and finally looked at Emma. His dark eyes held the same cold calculation she'd seen at the auction. She was being evaluated, measured, judged for purposes she couldn't understand. You're not eating. I'm not hungry. That wasn't a request. Emma forced herself to take a bite. The food was exquisite, but it tasted like sawdust. Vincent watched her chew and swallow with the attention of a scientist studying a lab rat. Better. In this house, you do what you're told. When you're told, no questions, no hesitation. He set down his tablet and leaned back in his chair. Today, you learn what your life looks like now. Mrs. Chen appeared as if materialized from air, refilling Vincent's coffee with silent efficiency. Emma wondered how long the woman had worked for him. How many girls like Emma had sat in this chair learning these same rules? Mrs. Chen will teach you the basics: how to dress, how to speak, how to behave when I have guests. Vincent's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Some of my associates have very specific tastes, very particular expectations. Emma's fork clattered against the plate. I won't do it. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Vincent stood slowly, each movement controlled and predatory. He walked around the table like a shark circling wounded prey. When he reached Emma's chair, he placed his hands on the armrests, trapping her between marble and muscle. Let me explain something to you. His voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of a death sentence. Margaret owed certain people a significant amount of money. Dangerous people, the kind who collect debts with interest calculated in blood. Emma's breath came in short, panicked gasps. Vincent's cologne filled her nostrils, expensive and suffocating. I paid those debts, all of them, which means Margaret's debt transferred to me, which means you belong to me until every penny is repaid. His face was inches from hers now. Do you know how much $5 million is to a girl with no education, no skills, no connections? Emma's vision blurred with tears she refused to shed. It's forever, Emma. You'll never earn enough to buy your freedom, which means you'll do exactly what I tell you to do, when I tell you to do it, for as long as I find you useful. He straightened, adjusting his cufflinks with casual precision. Refuse me, and I'll sell you to someone who won't be nearly as patient, someone who won't care if you break. The threat hung in the air like poison gas. Emma understood now that Vincent's apparent civility was just another form of cruelty. He could destroy her with a phone call, and they both knew it. Mrs. Chen, take her to the studio. Begin her education. The studio was a room Emma hadn't seen before, filled with mirrors and cameras and lights that belonged on a movie set. Mrs. Chen locked the door behind them with a soft click that sounded like a coffin closing. First lesson, Mrs. Chen said, opening a closet filled with clothes that made Emma's stomach turn. How to dress for his friends. The next 3 hours were a masterclass in degradation disguised as education. Mrs. Chen taught Emma how to walk in heels high enough to cripple, how to apply makeup that made her look older, more sophisticated, more available, how to speak in ways that suggested without saying, promised, without committing. Smile more, not with your mouth, with your eyes. Mrs. Chen adjusted Emma's posture with gentle but firm hands. Men like Mr. Romano's friends. They buy fantasy. You are fantasy now. Emma stared at herself in the mirror and saw a stranger. The girl looking back was polished, expensive, dangerous in all the ways that attracted predators. She looked like the kind of woman who could break hearts and empty bank accounts without losing sleep. Good. Much better. Mrs. Chen nodded approvingly. Now we practice conversation. Small talk that leads to big money. The lessons continued until Emma's feet bled inside the designer heels, and her face ached from holding artificial smiles. Mrs. Chen was patient but relentless, correcting every gesture, every word, every breath until Emma moved like a different person entirely. When Vincent finally returned, the sun was setting over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. Emma stood in the living room wearing a dress that cost more than most people's cars, her transformation complete. Vincent studied her with the same intensity he'd brought to his morning tablet. He walked a slow circle around her, like a buyer inspecting expensive merchandise. Acceptable. His approval felt like a slap disguised as a compliment. Tonight, you meet your first client. Emma's blood turned to ice water. Client. Senator Richards. He's voting on a bill that could interfere with certain business interests of mine. He needs convincing. Vincent's smile was sharp enough to draw blood. You'll help convince him? I don't understand. You don't need to understand. You need to do what you're told. Vincent checked his watch. A piece of machinery that probably cost more than Emma's entire former life. He'll arrive at 8. You'll be charming, accommodating, whatever it takes to make him see reason. The implications hit Emma like a physical blow. She was going to be sold again. Not permanently this time, but rented out to buy Vincent's political influence. What if I say no? Vincent's laugh was hollow, empty of any warmth. Then you'll discover why people in this city cross the street when they see me coming. He moved toward the door, then paused. Emma, don't disappoint me. I don't handle disappointment well. The door closed behind him with a whisper. Emma stood alone in the dying light, watching the city sparkle below her like a field of broken glass. Somewhere in that vast urban jungle, a senator was preparing to visit a penthouse where innocents went to die. Mrs. Chen appeared beside her like a ghost. You should eat something. Long night ahead. Emma turned to study the older woman's face, searching for any hint of humanity in her dark eyes. How long have you worked for him? 15 years. How many girls like me have you prepared? Mrs. Chen's expression remained neutral, professional. You are first to ask that question. The answer hit Emma harder than a direct blow would have. She wasn't just another victim. She was a new kind of victim, the first of her type to pass through Vincent's hands. Why me? Why now? Mrs. Chen was quiet for so long that Emma thought she wouldn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of years spent watching terrible things happen to innocent people. His wife. She died 2 years ago. Cancer. He loved her very much. Mrs. Chen's hands folded in front of her like she was praying. Since then he is a different man. Colder, more dangerous. Like part of his soul died with her. Wait, the revelation shouldn't have mattered. Tragedy didn't excuse evil, but something in Emma's chest tightened with unwanted understanding. Vincent Romano wasn't just a monster. He was a broken man who had chosen to become a monster. If you're watching this and feeling as trapped as Emma, remember that even in the darkest stories we need each other to make sense of what we're seeing. This isn't just entertainment. It's a mirror reflecting the worst parts of human nature. What would you do in Emma's position? What choices would you make when every option leads to destruction? Share your thoughts below, because sometimes the most important conversations happen in the shadows between the story and reality. Senator Richards arrived precisely at 8, stepping from a black sedan that disappeared into the Chicago night like smoke. Emma watched from the penthouse windows as Vincent greeted him in the marble lobby, two predators circling each other with practiced civility. The senator was older than she'd expected, maybe 60, with silver hair and the kind of soft belly that came from years of expensive dinners bought with other people's money. Vincent's hand rested on the senator's shoulder as they entered the elevator. Even from 43 floors up, Emma could see the gesture for what it was. Not friendship, but ownership. The senator belonged to Vincent now, whether he knew it or not. Emma's reflection stared back from the black windows. A stranger wearing her face. The red dress clung to curves she'd never noticed before, and the makeup transformed her into something that belonged in Vincent's world of shadows and compromises. Mrs. Chen had done her work well. Too well. The elevator chimed. Footsteps echoed across marble. Vincent's voice carried through the penthouse like silk wrapped around steel. Senator, I'd like you to meet Emma. She's been looking forward to this evening. Emma turned from the windows, her practiced smile sliding into place like armor. Senator Richards' eyes moved over her body with the subtlety of a man appraising livestock. His wedding ring caught the light as he reached for her hand. Enchanted. His lips were wet against her knuckles. Vincent didn't mention how lovely you are. The senator's been working too hard, Vincent said, pouring amber liquid into crystal glasses. I thought he might enjoy some relaxation before tomorrow's vote. The words hung in the air like a loaded gun. Emma understood her role now. She was the bait in a trap that would snap shut on democracy itself. Her stomach churned, but her smile never wavered. Tell me about your work, Senator. Emma accepted the glass Vincent offered, though her hands shook almost imperceptibly. It must be fascinating to shape the future. Richards preened under her attention like a peacock in mating season. Not everyone appreciates the complexities of governance. It requires a delicate touch, careful consideration of all stakeholders. Vincent settled into a chair that might as well have been a throne, watching the dance unfold with dark satisfaction. Emma felt his eyes on her like physical weight, measuring her performance, calculating her value. Stakeholders like Mr. Romano? Emma tilted her head, letting innocence mask the poison in her words. Vincent and I share certain philosophical alignments. Richards moved closer, whiskey making him bold. We both understand that progress sometimes requires flexibility in one's principles. The confession rolled off his tongue like honey sweetened with corruption. Emma realized she was witnessing the sale of a man's soul in real time, transaction by transaction, compromise by compromise. Flexibility is such an admirable quality, Emma murmured, allowing Richards to guide her toward the couch. His hand lingered at the small of her back, possessive and presumptuous. Vincent's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting into something darker. "Excuse me, business calls." He stood with fluid grace. "Emma, take care of our guest. I'll be back shortly." The door closed behind him with ominous finality. Emma was alone with a man who believed she'd been gift-wrapped for his pleasure. Richard's smile transformed into something hungrier, more predatory. "Now we can really get to know each other." His hand found her knee, fingers creeping upward like spiders. "Vincent mentioned you were very accommodating." Emma's training kicked in. Smile, deflect, control the situation without seeming to control it. "Tell me more about tomorrow's vote first. I find power so attractive in a man." Richards laughed, the sound thick with alcohol and arrogance. "It's just a little bill about financial regulations. Nothing that concerns a beautiful girl like you. But it concerns Mr. Romano. Vincent has interests in several businesses that might be affected by excessive oversight." Richard's hand moved higher, his breath hot against her neck. "A small vote adjustment ensures everyone stays profitable." Emma's skin crawled, but she forced herself to lean closer. "And what do you get in return?" "Campaign contributions, business opportunities, nights like this one." His lips brushed her ear. Vincent knows how to reward loyalty. The casual admission of corruption should have shocked her, but Emma felt only a cold numbness spreading through her chest. This was her life now, trading her body for information that Vincent would use to tighten his grip on the city's throat. Richards's hands grew bolder, more insistent. Emma's training warred with her instincts, politeness battling revulsion. She was saved by the sound of Vincent's return, his footsteps announcing his presence like thunder before the storm. "I hope I haven't missed anything important." Vincent's voice carried an edge that made Richard's hands retreat instantly. "Just getting acquainted," Richard stammered, suddenly remembering he was married, suddenly remembering he was supposed to be honorable. Vincent's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "Emma has a gift for making people comfortable. It's one of her many talents." The senator nodded enthusiastically, completely missing the threat wrapped in Vincent's compliment. Emma saw it clearly, though. The warning that she belonged to Vincent first, last, and always. That her performance was being judged by a man who didn't tolerate failure. "Perhaps we should discuss tomorrow's logistics," Vincent continued, settling back into his chair with predatory grace. "The vote is at 10. You'll need to be convincing. Consider it handled." Richards puffed out his chest like a rooster claiming dominance over the henhouse. "Though I have to say, Vincent, your hospitality makes cooperation much more pleasant." Emma felt bile rise in her throat. She was watching democracy die in real time, strangled by greed and dressed up in silk and crystal. The senator would vote to protect Vincent's interests. The city would grow a little darker, and she would have been the instrument of its destruction. "Emma, why don't you show the senator to his car?" Vincent's tone was casual, but Emma heard the command underneath. Her audition was over. Time for the final bow. In the elevator, Richards pressed himself against her like a teenager on prom night. His hands roamed freely now, emboldened by alcohol and Vincent's implicit permission. Emma stood frozen, counting floors as they descended toward hell. "Next time," Richards whispered against her neck, "maybe we can have more privacy." The words were meant as a promise, but they sounded like a death sentence. Emma realized this wasn't a one-time transaction. She was being auditioned for a lifetime of nights like this one, servicing Vincent's business interests with her body as currency. The lobby doors opened, releasing Richards into the Chicago night. He stumbled toward his waiting car, already pulling out his phone to call his wife with practiced lies about late-night committee meetings. Emma rode the elevator back up to the penthouse in silence, watching the city lights blur past like falling stars. When the doors opened, Vincent was waiting for her with 2 glasses of champagne and an expression she couldn't read. "You did well tonight." He handed her a glass, their fingers brushing in the exchange. "Richards will vote the way we need him to vote." "How do you know?" "Because he's a weak man who thinks with his appetites instead of his brain." Vincent's smile was cold as winter morning. And because you gave him exactly what he wanted, the illusion that he was taking something that wasn't freely offered. The champagne tasted like ashes in Emma's mouth. She understood now that her resistance had been part of the performance, her reluctance a seasoning that made the final submission more valuable. Is this my life now? Entertaining your business associates? Vincent studied her face like he was reading a map to buried treasure. That depends on how useful you prove to be. Tonight was promising, but it was just the beginning. Emma set down her untouched champagne and walked to the windows. Chicago stretched endlessly in all directions, millions of lights hiding millions of secrets. Somewhere in that urban jungle, Senator Richards was probably already practicing his speech about fiscal responsibility while planning to vote for Vincent's interests. What happened to your wife? The question escaped before Emma could stop it. Vincent went very still behind her, the silence stretching like a wire under tension. Cancer. His voice was barely above a whisper. It ate her alive piece by piece while I watched helplessly. Emma turned to study his reflection in the black glass. For just a moment, the mask slipped, revealing something human underneath the monster. Pain. Loss. The kind of grief that transforms men into demons. I'm sorry. Don't be. She wouldn't approve of what I've become. Vincent's laugh was hollow, empty of any warmth. But she's dead, and I'm still here. And the living have to make choices the dead can't judge. The vulnerability lasted only seconds before the cold mask slammed back into place. But Emma had seen behind the curtain now, glimpsed the broken man hiding inside the criminal emperor. It should have made her feel better. Instead, it made everything worse. Monsters were easier to hate than broken men choosing evil. 3 months passed like a fever dream of silk dresses and champagne lies. Emma learned to navigate Vincent's world with the precision of a dancer walking on razor blades. She entertained judges who sold verdicts like groceries, businessmen who traded in human misery, politicians who auctioned their souls to the highest bidder. Each night she died a little more inside while perfecting the art of being exactly what powerful men wanted her to be. The penthouse had become both palace and prison. Emma's reflection in the black marble showed a woman who belonged in Vincent's world now. Polished, dangerous, beautiful in ways that attracted predators and repelled salvation. She no longer recognized the 19-year-old girl who had trembled in Margaret's living room. That girl was dead. What remained was something harder, colder, more useful. Vincent watched her transformation with the satisfaction of an artist perfecting his masterpiece. He gave her jewelry that cost more than most people's houses, clothes that whispered wealth and power, access to a life most women could only dream of. The cage was gilded, but it was still a cage. Tonight was different. Vincent sat across from her at dinner, his usual mask of cold control replaced by something Emma couldn't identify. He seemed almost nervous. The realization sent ice through her veins. Vincent Romano didn't get nervous. He made other people nervous. There's something we need to discuss. His voice carried an edge she'd never heard before. A situation that requires your particular skills. Emma set down her fork, appetite vanishing like smoke. What kind of situation? The kind that could change everything. Vincent's fingers drummed against the crystal wine glass, a tell she'd learned meant he was calculating risks. There's a federal prosecutor named Sarah Mitchell. She's been building a case against my operations for 2 years. The name hit Emma like a physical blow. Sarah Mitchell had been her father's law school classmate, a woman who had sent Emma birthday cards until Margaret threw them away unopened. The closest thing to family Emma had left in the world. She's close to having enough evidence for indictments, very close. Vincent's dark eyes studied Emma's face for any reaction, which means she needs to be neutralized before she can act. Emma's blood turned to ice water. Neutralized how? She has a weakness, a blind spot that makes her vulnerable. Vincent's smile was sharp enough to draw blood. She's been trying to find you for years. Apparently your father made her promise to look after you if anything happened to him. The words hit Emma like bullets. Sarah Mitchell had been looking for her. Someone had cared enough to search. Someone had tried to honor her father's memory by protecting his daughter. The knowledge should have brought comfort, but all Emma felt was the crushing weight of what she'd become. She doesn't know about Margaret's debts, doesn't know about the auction. As far as she's concerned, you simply disappeared after your father's death. Vincent leaned forward, his presence filling the space between them. She thinks you might be in danger. Emma's throat constricted. You want me to contact her? I want you to let her find you. Let her think she's rescuing you from terrible circumstances. Vincent's laugh was hollow as winter wind. She'll never suspect that her salvation is actually her destruction. The plan crystallized in Emma's mind like poison forming in her bloodstream. Sarah would come running to save the daughter of her dead friend, walking straight into Vincent's trap. Emma would be the bait that destroyed the last person on earth who remembered her father with love. She'll trust you completely. You're the victim she's been trying to save. Vincent's voice dropped to a whisper. When she tells you about her investigation, when she shares her evidence, when she asks for your help to bring down the monsters who hurt you, you'll give me everything. Emma stood on shaking legs, her chair scraping against marble like fingernails on glass. She walked to the windows, pressing her palms against the cold surface as the city sprawled endlessly below. 43 floors down, people lived normal lives, made moral choices, slept peacefully in beds not bought with blood money. What if I refuse? Vincent's reflection appeared behind hers in the dark glass. His hand settled on her shoulders, fingers digging just deep enough to promise pain without delivering it yet. Then Sarah Mitchell dies anyway, but messily, publicly, in ways that make other prosecutors think twice about investigating my business. His lips brushed her ear. At least this way her death serves a purpose. At least this way you have the power to make it quick. The choice was no choice at all. Emma could betray Sarah's trust and deliver her to Vincent cleanly, or Vincent would destroy her brutally. Either way, the woman who had tried to honor her father's memory would die because of what Emma had become. How long do I have? She'll make contact within the week. My sources say she's traced you to Chicago. Vincent's hands tightened on her shoulders. You'll be ready. Emma closed her eyes and felt the last piece of her soul crumble to ash. She had become exactly what Vincent needed her to be. Not just a weapon against his enemies, but a weapon that could destroy the people who might have loved her. The week passed in a haze of preparation and dread. Vincent's technicians installed recording equipment so sophisticated it was invisible. Emma rehearsed her story until the lies felt more real than truth. She would be the traumatized victim, grateful for rescue, desperate to help bring her captors to justice. The performance would be flawless because the emotions were real, just pointed in the wrong direction. Sarah's call came on a Tuesday morning, her voice exactly as Emma remembered from childhood visits. Warm, concerned, radiating the kind of strength that made people believe justice was possible. Emma. Oh God, Emma, is it really you? I've been looking everywhere. The conversation lasted 20 minutes. Emma played her part perfectly, letting years of genuine pain bleed through calculated lies. Sarah believed every word because she needed to believe. Because the alternative was accepting that good people couldn't save everyone. They arranged to meet at a coffee shop in Lincoln Park, somewhere public and safe. Somewhere Sarah would feel comfortable revealing secrets that would get her killed. Vincent kissed Emma's forehead before she left, a gesture that felt like a benediction and a curse. Remember, you're not just betraying her, you're protecting yourself. She chose to be my enemy, you're just choosing to survive. The coffee shop was exactly the kind of place Sarah would pick. Bright, busy, full of normal people living normal lives. Emma arrived early, choosing a table near the window where Vincent's surveillance team could watch from across the street. She ordered coffee she wouldn't drink and waited for her father's friend to walk into the trap. Sarah Mitchell looked older than Emma remembered, gray threading through brown hair, lines around eyes that had seen too much injustice. But her smile was exactly the same, genuine warmth that made Emma want to cry for everything she'd lost. You look so much like your father. Sarah's hands trembled as she reached across the table. Emma, what happened to you? I've been so worried. The questions came in a flood of concern and love. Where had she been living? Was she safe? Did she need money, a place to stay, legal help? Sarah's care was genuine, absolute, exactly the kind of maternal protection Emma had craved for years. And Emma destroyed it methodically, question by question, smile by smile. She told carefully crafted stories about living on the streets, about dangerous men who had hurt her, about barely escaping with her life. Sarah's eyes filled with tears and rage, her prosecutor's instincts immediately connecting Emma's fictional suffering to Vincent's very real crimes. I can protect you now, Sarah whispered, reaching into her briefcase. I have evidence against Romano, financial records, witness testimonies, enough to put him away forever. The documents spread across the table like tarot cards revealing death. Emma memorized every page, every signature, every piece of evidence that would disappear before Sarah could use it. Vincent's technicians were recording everything through the microphone hidden in Emma's necklace. "Will you help me?" Sarah's eyes burned with the kind of righteous fury that had once changed the world. "Will you testify against the monsters who hurt you?" Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I'll help you stop them." The lies tasted like poison and salvation. Sarah gathered her papers with renewed determination, already planning the case that would never see a courtroom. Emma memorized the address of Sarah's safe house, the names of protected witnesses, the timeline for arrests that would never come. 2 days later, Sarah Mitchell died in a car accident on Lakeshore Drive. Brake failure, the investigation concluded. Tragic, but not suspicious. The evidence disappeared from her office the same night. Witnesses vanished like smoke. The case against Vincent Romano died with the woman who had spent 2 years building it. Emma stood at the penthouse windows watching news coverage of the accident. Sarah's photo filled the screen. The same warm smile, the same caring eyes that had tried to save a girl who was already lost. Vincent appeared beside her, champagne in hand, celebrating another victory. "You did well. Sarah Mitchell is no longer a problem." Emma accepted the crystal flute, her hand steady as stone. She had become everything Vincent needed her to be. Not just a weapon, but the perfect weapon. One that could destroy love itself. The champagne tasted like ash and victory. Emma drank it anyway, watching Chicago sparkle below like a field of broken promises. She was Vincent Romano's masterpiece now, a monster wearing the face of an angel, beautiful and damned, and absolutely beyond redemption. And the most terrifying part was how little it hurt anymore. In the reflection of the black windows, Emma saw exactly what she had become. Not a victim, not a survivor, something else entirely. Something that Vincent Romano could be proud of. Something that would never again mistake kindness for weakness or love for salvation. The girl who had once trembled in Margaret's living room was truly dead now. What remained belonged to the darkness completely. If you've made it through Emma's transformation, you've witnessed something that happens in shadows all around us. The slow erosion of humanity under pressure. This isn't just a story about crime. It's about how systems of power corrupt everything they touch, including the people they claim to protect. What did you think of Emma's final choice? Could she have found another way, or was she truly trapped by circumstances beyond her control? These are the questions that matter most, because they're the ones we all face when the world demands we choose between our souls and our survival. Let me know what you think. Your perspective might be exactly what someone else needs to hear.